Okay, welcome to the world's fastest and most thorough World War II lecture. Obviously not my PowerPoint. Okay, the road to war, 1919 to 1939. We've talked about this in class, the Treaty of Versailles, which is, of course, very unfair to Germany. One, and actually the only one of Wilson's 14 points really to be acknowledged by Great Britain and France, was the League of Nations, which of course the United States didn't even join. The League of Nations was very weak because it really didn't have any power to back it up. It had no control over major conflicts. There was actually no real incentive or plan for disarmament of Germany and other European countries, and there was no military force. Like I said, they had nothing to back it up. It was all talk with no stick, if you will. Okay, so now in Germany, we have something called the stab in the back theory. You might recall from class today how we were talking about how many people were like, oh, well, we're sort of being forced here to sign the Treaty of Versailles. We don't really want to, but look, we're starving. We need our prisoners of war to come home. Well, after just a few years of depression and basically international German humiliation, the history gets changed a little bit, and people start only to remember that it was like sort of the communist-leaning, social, democrat, more liberal people who wanted to sign the Treaty of Versailles, and they're like, oh, they stabbed us in the back, and they sold out our soldiers, and we really could have won. But of course, in reality, they couldn't have, but time has a way of altering reality, and people started to look back and say, oh, we totally could have won. It made the Weimar Republic, this interwar period government in Germany, look really bad. In addition to that, they were seen as decadent, meaning they were exploitative, they were hoarding money and food while people were starving in the streets. There was little truth to this. Mostly they just had a bad image because they were the government that actually did sign the Treaty of Versailles, so in many ways they accepted the blame for it amongst the German people. Now in France, there was something called the Maginot Line, which was sort of like a fortification. It was a very weak fortification, but it's almost like France built a wall to protect itself from Germany. This gave them, as you can see from the top of the slide, a false sense of security. It was supposed to be put in place to protect Paris, but you can see from the arrows on the screen here that they just sort of went right around the Maginot Line. That's why there's a lot of jokes now, contemporary jokes, about how France was like wimpy or bad at war or stupid, even though for like the entirety of European history, France has been a very dominant military power. All right. International agreements leading up to the war. One was the Locarno Pact, where France, Italy, Great Britain, and Germany agreed to establish a demilitarized zone east of the Rhineland, which is where the Rhine River is, which divides Germany from France, and they were supposed to refrain from aggression. This was a very weak pact, and again, it wasn't enforced by anything. One of my all-time favorites is the Kellogg-Briand Pact, which basically just said, you know what, let's just make war illegal, bro. And it sounds like very hippy-dippy, but this is actually what people agreed upon. You might remember this from AP or U.S. history if you took it. Again, they're like, dude, let's make war illegal, but they didn't actually have anything to ensure that that happened. While all this is going on, there's the Great Depression all across the Western world. Furthermore, there's something called the Manchurian Crisis, which is when Japanese forces marched on China. So when Japan invades Manchuria, which is in China, in 1931, and all of these international treaties Japan promised to abide by were just sort of blown out the window, which is signified here by this political cartoon. Along the same vein, Italy then attacked Ethiopia. Remember, all these guys weren't really supposed to expand anymore because, balance of power, but they did anyway. So Italy attacks Ethiopia, which sort of ruffles some feathers, if you will, internationally. Again, the League of Nations, basically like Great Britain and France were like, hey, don't do that, and Italy's like, oh, okay, sorry, our bad, but again, they can't really do anything to Italy. So now Germany, following along the same vein, invades the Rhineland. Now remember, this was supposed to be a buffer zone between France and Germany, but Germany just goes ahead and gets it anyway. This is in 1936 now. Actually, let me go back to this map really quick. The dark kind of burgundy area is German territory as established by the Treaty of Versailles. The Rhineland, which is supposed to be the demilitarized zone that's now, as of 1936, occupied by Germany, is sort of in pink there just to the west. Sudetenland. The Sudetenland is a part of northern Czechoslovakia, which is largely populated by Germans. This is going to be one of Hitler's targets. And of course, Austria is there below Germany in purple. Okay, so the U.S. Neutrality Acts. The U.S. is like, well, you know, it's you can see Uncle Sam there looking across the Atlantic Ocean at Europe, and it looks like a total disaster. And Uncle Sam's kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to like walk over here now and not get involved. The U.S. is like, we wash our hands of this. World War I was terrible, and we weren't even in it for a whole year. We don't want to get sucked into another European war. Of course, that will go out the window in 1941 with the invasion of Pearl Harbor. All right, so we're going to roll along here. In 1936, Germany and Italy officially ally in what's called the Rome-Berlin Axis, the Pact of Steel. And then we have, to add fuel to the fascism fire, we have the Spanish Civil War. Now you have the nationalists, okay, who are fighting for, you know, they're Catholics, they want the monarchists, they want fascism. They see fascism as a strong way to rule the nation. However, they're fighting the Republicans, the Popular Front, which includes many minority groups such as the Basques and the Catalans. I'm saying that terribly wrong, I'm sorry. You can see there are a lot of lefties on this side, like communists, Marxists, Republicans, and socialists. Republicans meaning that they just want a free republic. Ultimately, the National Front is going to win out and establish fascism in Spain. So at this point in history now, Germany, Italy, and Spain will be fascist. However, Spain will remain neutral throughout World War II. You can see some more propaganda. Here it looks like they're making communism look pretty bad there to the right. This is probably a nationalist political cartoon. Okay. So this is the Spanish Civil War here. You can see in the green, nationalist territory takes over as time goes on, and eventually Republican territory becomes obsolete. Okay. Okay, Francisco Franco. He is the leader of the Spanish Civil War and on the nationalist side, and he will become the fascist dictator of Spain. Alright, so Italian troops go in to support the fascists in Madrid in Spain. And Pablo Picasso, not Pablo Carrizales, but Pablo Picasso, this is one of his most famous paintings. It's called Guernica. It's about the Spanish Civil War, and you can see it portrays death, chaos. It's a very dark piece that Picasso created here. The style of art, by the way, here is called Cubism. It breaks images down in an abstract form. All right, now getting into 1937, we have a really horrific invasion of China by the Japanese. Just some horrific stuff. Mass murder. You perhaps have heard about the rape of Nanking. You know, hundreds of thousands of people die. In fact, the Chinese have a higher death toll at the hands of the Japanese than anybody killed, or maybe not anybody, but I believe for certainly more Chinese were killed at the hands of the Japanese than were Jews in the Holocaust by Adolf Hitler. Very gruesome, very violent. Meanwhile, in Central Europe, the Anschluss takes place. Austria is, of course, then the ever-weakening downstairs neighbor of Germany throughout the 20th century. And even though at the protest of many Austrians, Austria becomes annexed or part of Germany. Hitler, you know, is Austrian. However, at this time he identifies himself as German, and he goes there and says, look, we're brothers. We're your, like, stronger big brother. Let us take care of you. Many Austrians support this. However, there is an Austrian resistance to the Anschluss in 1938. 1938 also happens to be the year that Hitler instated a universal draft, drafting all men of age into the military in Germany. Now we get into the problem of the Sudetenland. The Sudetenland, again, is Czech territory, and so Hitler sort of goes in and just takes it. He takes his military and marches in September 30th of 1938, and the League of Nations sort of shakes its finger and says, no, 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 Hitler. You know, mostly Neville Chamberlain, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, says, no, Hitler, don't do that anymore. And Hitler says, okay, we'll stop. And then a few days later, they take over Czechoslovakia within a few weeks. So Czech territory is annexed by Poland, some of it goes to Hungary. Essentially, Czechoslovakia is becoming dominated by its larger European neighbors. And again, all this while there's appeasement going on, and the League of Nations is like, Germany, stop taking over countries. And Germany's like, sorry, we'll try and stop next time. But of course they don't. There was the Munich Agreement, and here he is, Neville Chamberlain, saying, okay, Hitler, see this piece of paper? I'm going to shake it at you. Don't do it anymore. And Hitler says, okay, fine. This is, of course, one of the most unfortunate quotes probably in leading up to World War II. Now we have peace in our time. Hitler is a man we can do business with. Thinking that, of course, Adolf Hitler will abide this agreement to not take over any more land, which is, of course, wrong. So Czechoslovakia then, as of 1939, becomes part of the Third Reich, and you can see this tearful woman hailing Hitler, certainly against her will. While all this is happening, Hitler knows that Russia, to his east, cannot be his enemy. So he's like, look, let's sign a non-aggression pact because I really don't want you to beat me up. And, you know, Stalin just sort of wants to stay out of all this, so he's like, sure, fine, whatever. So the Nazis and the Soviets come to a secret agreement, okay, in 1939, which, of course, Hitler will violate. And, of course, on September 1st, shortly after September 1st, 1939, Hitler invades Poland. The agreement here is that Germany will take some of Poland and give the rest to the USSR, and they're like, here, take Poland and just leave us alone, and the Soviets are like, sure, we'd love to take Poland off your hands, and that's that. So I'm going to pause here and we'll go on to the next one. Thanks for listening.